Hey everybody, Kimmer here. I am going to do a quick tutorial for you on how to make a pom-pom using the very awesome, unbeatable, super cool Clover Pom Pom makers. I highly recommend these pom pom makers. They're the easiest to use. However, the very first time I picked one up, I was like, what? I don't get it. It just, because it, does all this stuff. And it seems like it's really complicated, but it's not. And so I'm going to show you. So when you get your pom pom maker, it should look like this. Okay. The first thing I want to show you is that it has two sets of arms that are independent of each other, but you don't use them that way. You use them together. So you have one side and you have the other side. You use one side at a time when you're making a pom-pom. So to start a pom-pom, you would pull down both levers of one side so that your pom-pom maker looks like this. Okay, I'm using the 4-inch pom-pom maker, which is this like kind of baby blue color. This is the size that you would use if you were making pom-poms to donate to the stash for us to throw during the Baldwin Windmill Days Parade. This is a really good size pom-pom. However, if you feel awesome and amazing and you have tons of scrap yarn you want to get rid of, we also will throw these pom-poms. This is the jumbo pom-pom maker. It works exactly the same way. You're going to make pom-poms exactly the same way. They just are quite a bit bigger. They're like a 6.5-inch pom, which is kind of crazy and super fun. It takes a lot of yarn though, so just be aware of that. So I'm going to show you how to do this one, as this one is the most useful to us. And this is the size that people kind of want to make. So there it is in my hand. That gives you an idea of how big it is. Okay? So the way to make it go the fastest is to use multiple strands of yarn. So I am just cleaning up a bunch of odds and ends of yarn around here to make pom-poms. So I have a strand of puzzle and a strand of like a chunky, like a 5, and then I have 2 strands of light worsted all at once. Okay, so I just get them kind of ready to go so they're pulling pretty easy, so they're not tangled up, and then I pull get the chunks together, and I've got my pom-pom maker all ready to go, and all I do is just kind of wrap it around one end towards the side, I guess, like this. I hold it with my finger and then just wrap it around a couple times to hold it down, just like that. Don't worry about that. We're going to cut that off later. So with wrapping the poms, the arms for the pom, one of the ways to reduce trimming later and make it a nice tight firm pom-pom that doesn't explode is to wrap it pretty tight. So I'm kind of pulling on this and I am working my way down as evenly as I can, all the way to the other end of the arms, like that. See? And then I'm going to come right back, again, working as evenly as I can, but obviously not worrying too much about it, okay? And just keep rolling back and forth, like so. Until I have enough yarn wrapped around that this starts to look like a fuzzy wuzzy caterpillar, a really fat one, like about that. Okay, so this part of the arm, if you look at the bottom side after you've wrapped a side, you really don't want it like puffed way out down here, because if you do that, you're just going to cut it off anyway. So fairly even with the bottom, but definitely full. If it's not full, it's your pom-pom will be kind of, not oomphy. You want an oomphy pom. Once you get it like that, just push it shut, and then take your steeking scissors. Any kind of short blade, thin blade scissors works really good for this, but you definitely want sharp scissors for this little project. And then you just cut it off like that. Now don't open that. Now you just open the other side that we had closed while we were working on this side, just like so. And do the same thing again. Just hold it down, wrap it around a time or two to get it, make sure it's like on there. Work your way up to the one corner and then start working your way back. Now, this happens really easily, and it's something you want to watch out for. See how the yarn wrapped around and caught a corner? You don't want anything up here on these, on the outsides of these, of the ends of the arms. So if that happens, just push it back down. That will make a loose wrap inside the pom-pom, and it's potentially a place where a bunch of it could come out. And if some of it comes out, it loosens the knot that you used when you finish it, making it a pom-pom that will explode. Now, you know, exploding pom-poms are kind of fun, but they're not fun when they explode in your washer and dryer, or when they explode in some poor little kid's face during the parade. There's many occasions where they're not fun. They are fun if you are throwing them at your husband because he's being a derp, or, you know, your teenage children because they're sassing you or something like that. Then it's fun. But always remember, someone still has to clean that up. Not fun. So like that, see? And I've wrapped these essentially the same way, so with the same yarn, so they're basically the same thickness, and so I know about how fat this pom-pom's going to be. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to push it shut, and I'm going to cut this end. Now comes the part where people get confused. Holding it closed at this point. If you remember, you had two arms, right? So there's like that little track inside there. See that? Just take your scissors, plant it right between the two arms of one side, and start snipping. And you can feel the track. Just keep your scissors in the track and you'll cut it right in half. Just like this. Okay? You can double check and make sure you got them all, and I did. And then go ahead and turn it over. But keep your finger on the levers of the arms on the side you just cut to keep it closed. Don't want that to open right now. And then stick your scissors in the same spot on the other side and do it again. Cut this side open. This also is when you get your first peek at how your pom-pom turned out. How did the colors turn out? It's really fun. And make sure again that you got them all apart, and then just set it down. Now it's a bomb. Pretend it's a bomb. Go ahead and grab a length of any of your yarns, about like that, and stick it in here, in that track, okay? All the way around in the track. And tie it. Now you're going to have to cinch down on this really hard. Depending on what yarn you're using, it could snap. So I encourage you to do it as tight as you can, but sort of gradually build the pressure of how tight you're pulling that. If it does snap, just stop, drop those ends, grab a new piece, and keep going and tie it with a new piece. That's best. And you want to tie this a couple times around and then tie a couple knots in it like this after you've cinched it down really hard. Now this is the part, what you're doing right here is what keeps the pom-pom from falling apart. So if you've made pom-poms before and you've had trouble with them being nice and firm and tightly tied, that's where the trouble comes from. It's not really reefing on that and getting that tied down tight. Okay, so now this is where a lot of people take this off. I'm going to show you a little trick for getting a pretty, you know, not perfect, but practically perfect pom-pom almost every time. See how it's all uneven? See that? So I'm going to just take my scissors, and I can feel the side of the pom-pom maker, right? Just resting my scissors gently and using that as a guide, I am just going to cut off whatever is longer than the height, like that. And I'm going to just do it again over here. This is the part where really sharp scissors is super helpful. And if you see some stragglies that didn't get cut all the way, go ahead and cut those off. But don't overdo this part. Like, don't overthink this. You'll be really surprised. And again on the other side. And the last part. Okay, I'm also working on a piece of tissue paper. You can use newspaper or whatever, but that helps keep the fuzzies contained. It doesn't seem to want to get off the tissue paper and stick to everything else in sight. So now is the fun part. So I've tied it tightly, and I'm double checking that to make sure I remembered to tie it before I started cutting. And now I am going to grab the two edges of one set of arms and pull it like that. And then I'm going to go over and I'm going to open the other set of arms and pull it like that. And then it just, boop, comes apart. See? Comes apart in 2 halves. And put it back together. And it's all ready to go for the next pom-pom. Now, just grab that where I tied right there. Give it a shake. And see what we've got that needs to be cut off. Not too much, right? See that? Depending on what this pom-pom is for and how fussy you are about it, you can do some more trimming at this point. But make sure you keep shaking it, because shaking them out really helps you see if there's any heavy unevenness or parts that are really overly long. Okay? For the purposes of the parade, this pom-pom is done. Look at that. Pom-pom in, I think, less than 5 minutes or something like that, or pretty close to it. That's how you do it. We sell the Clover Pom Pom makers at the shop. You can pick them up anytime. You can make them out of any yarn you want. It's really fun to play around with color if you have time to think about it. It's also fun to make half and half pom-poms, which you do by opening the set of arms and doing this side of like one color or a combination of colors and then closing it, and then doing this side the same. If you start thinking about it in terms of what it's going to do after you take it apart, it's really easy to start planning out like where you could pull colors, how you can do designs inside of a pom-pom. There's a lot of interesting things you can do, but you don't have to. You can just sit and make scrap yarn pom-poms, and they're usually pretty cute. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it using the Clover Pom Pom maker, and I hope that it explained it and made it easy for you. And if you do decide to help us out and make pom-poms for us to throw during the parade, you can bring those in the shop anytime that we're open. We super appreciate it. So have fun, you guys. I hope that was useful. We'll see you soon. Happy yarning, my friends.
Yarn.